Hello and welcome to another Analysis Behind the News, where we provide the perspective that you can use to help save American liberty and independence. While the media is fixating on Robert Mueller's report of no Russian collusion with the 2016 Trump campaign, the United Nations was busy deciding your future habits of production and consumption. In the name of sustainability, 4,700 attendees from around the globe attended the 4th UN Environment Assembly in Nairobi. On its website, the UN calls these attendees, quote unquote, the world's top environmental body whose decisions will set the global agenda. Now, we have to ask, do any of you remember voting in a global election, allowing any of these people to make decisions for you? Well, of course not. The Assembly noted online that since they were deeply concerned by mounting evidence that the planet is increasingly polluted, rapidly warming, and dangerously depleted, the attendees pledged to address environmental challenges through advancing innovative solutions and adopting sustainable consumption and production patterns. So they called the current state of the planet an environmental crisis, of which they pledged to solve through innovation and sustainable consumption and production. So where have we heard that lately? Doesn't that sound a bit like the rhetoric surrounding the Green New Deal that socialists are pushing in Congress? In fact, one would have to be a socialist or communist to think that government could better pick our production and consumption choices for us. These attendees also had the audacity to proclaim that they are doing this in the name of poverty eradication as well as protecting natural resources. The president of the assembly proclaimed that we will transform the way we will live. And, not to be outdone, the acting executive director further chimed in that if countries deliver on all that was agreed here and implement the resolutions, we could take a big step towards a new world order where we no longer grow at the expense of nature, but instead see people and planet thrive together. So, what might this new world order look like? Well, it involves looking at their Sustainable Development Goals for the year 2030. Within them, they admittedly call for income equality through wealth redistribution. So Alex Newman reported for thenewamerican.com back in early 2016 that in plain English, the Agenda 2030 document is claiming that today's consumption and production patterns are unsustainable, so we'll need to get by with less. How much less? It would be hard to find a more clear and concise assessment than that offered by the late Maurice Strong, the recently deceased Canadian billionaire and longtime UN environmental guru, who led the 1992 Earth Summit. In a pre-Earth Summit document, he writes, "It is clear that current lifestyles and consumption patterns of the affluent middle class, involving high meat intake, consumption of large amounts of frozen and convenience foods, ownership of motor vehicles, numerous electrical appliances, home and workplace air conditioning, expensive suburban housing are not sustainable." Well, let's think about that impact of that assessment. The UN is pushing that the average American lifestyle, your lifestyle, doesn't meet its conditions of sustainability, and that many of our modern day conveniences would be gone. And to accomplish this vision of their new world order would mean that governments would need to implement controls that would see highly restrictive regulations to not only consumers, but to those producers who create our stuff, our food, our homes, and of course our infrastructure. So instead of a free market economy, we would be living in a government-managed, tightly controlled society that would strip us all of our modern societal advances, all in the name of sustainability. TheNewAmerican.com also reported that the cost of this planetary scheme would cost between $3 and $5 trillion per year. Agenda 2030 has been heralded by such dictators as Robert Mugabe of the African Union, Nicolas Maduro from the failed Venezuela, the Castro regime from Cuba, and officials from the communist China who bragged that they had a crucial role in developing Agenda 2030. And folks, if you think that this could never happen here, well, let us remind you of two items. Last week, an Obama-appointed judge blocked oil exploration across 300,000 acres of land in Wyoming due to climate change. And number two, Agenda 2030 is merely an extension of Agenda 21, which has been voluntarily adopted by many local municipalities over the last decade or so. So you see, while the UN and the media touts that this agenda is built on non-binding resolutions, they fail to disclose that once these are passed within a law from the local, county, state, or federal level, they certainly are then binding, punishable to the fullest extent of the law. So don't be fooled by the hysteria of the climate change crowd or the sustainability gurus that think nothing of the carbon footprint they live in. Always keep a skeptical eye on any reason to grow government. The failed socialist utopians of history demonstrate that their track record is not one that America should emulate. And one way to help steer clear of this entrapment is to get the United States out of the United Nations. So contact your representative and ask him or her to co-sponsor H.R. 204, which is the American Sovereignty Restoration Act. It would officially terminate U.S. membership in the United Nations. Contact details are listed below this video, or visit jbs.org for more details. And please, be sure to like and share this video with others. And until next time, we'll see you then.